In the year 233 AC, House Peake rose up against the Iron Throne and King Maekar Targaryen. House Peake had always been the most loyal of the Blackfyre supporters, but after the first Blackfyre rebellion ended with Daemon Blackfyre dead in the Battle of the Red Grass Field, King Daeron stripped House Peake of 2 of their 3 castles, Dunstanbury and Whitegrove. Lord Gorman Peake would later be executed for his key role in the Second Blackfyre Rebellion. All this culminated in 233 AC with the Peake Uprising, in which House Peake is speculated to have hoped for the return of their stripped lands, with others also suggesting they hoped to fuel the 4th Blackfyre Rebellion. King Maekar, being a leader of men, took command of the Targaryen forces himself, marching on the last remaining castle of House Peake, Starpike. Some sources state that King Maekar Targaryen, the first of his name, died assaulting Starpike, crushed by a rock hurled from the battlements. While the Peake Uprising was put down, it came at great cost, not just to House Targaryen, but to other houses across the realm. Not only was the king dead, with no clear heir, Robert Reyne of Castamere and Tyward Lannister, the heir to Casterly Rock, were also killed in the battle. Roger Reyne, the new Lord of Castamere, slaughtered 7 peaks after Starpike as revenge, but the damage had been done. Maekar was dead, and once again the 7 kingdoms of Westeros were plunged into chaos. With King Maekar's 2 eldest sons, Daeron and Aerion, also dead, there was no clear heir to the Iron Throne, made even more complicated by the fact there was several valid claims to it. But one man had a solution for this chaos. Brynden Rivers, the infamous Bloodraven, the Hand of the King, the only man in the kingdoms with a plan. For only the 3rd time in the history of Westeros, a great council was called to decide the succession of Maekar. 233 AC. Hundreds of lords, great and small, assembled from every kingdom, and for the first time, the Dornish were present in a voting capacity. They met in King's Landing, and for a while, the city was overflowing with people, much to the delight of the innkeeps and brothel owners. Unlike the Great Council of 101, to decide between Viserys Targaryen and Laenor Velaryon, all 4 claimants were members of House Targaryen, which for some lords did simplify matters somewhat, with less political back and forth needed between the factions that formed in the halls of the Red Keep. There were 4 possible claimants identified by the lords present with a claim to the Iron Throne. The Great Council very quickly dismissed Maekar's eldest son, Prince Daeron's sweet but simple-minded daughter Vaella almost immediately. Many felt she did not have the faculties to make an effective ruler, while some scholars of history point to some trepidation given Vaella's gender and the prospect of a ruling queen. Very few also spoke up in favour of Prince Aerion Breakflame's infant son, a babe named Maegor. Such a young child as king would have meant a very long, continuous regency. The 5-year regency of King Aegon III from 131 AC to 136 AC was turbulent enough and almost ended in disaster several times over. The prospect of another regency, with it this time being possibly 3 times as long, was not a favourable outcome for the stability of Westeros. Maesters who attended the council on behalf of the Citadel also noted many lords objected, as there was some fear the boy might have inherited his father's cruelty and madness, and will live to rule like his namesake, Maegor the Cruel, a fate many lords rightly wanted to avoid all costs. Prince Aegon, the 4th and youngest son of King Maekar, was the obvious choice for many. He was 33 years of age and had been married for several years, already having several heirs who could follow after him. But there was a faction of lords who felt Aegon was not the suitable prospect he seemed on paper. They distrusted him, given his unconventional childhood wandering up and down the realm with a hedge knight. Some even suggested that it left him half a peasant and not suited to sit the Iron Throne. Enough hated Aegon, there was an effort made to determine whether his elder brother, Maester Aemon, might be released from his vows as a maester to take the throne. When Aemon was approached with the idea, it is said he politely and quietly refused, ceding rule to his younger brother, Aegon. Even as an accord among the lords finally began to be struck, as debates raged on over the final details, there was one last-minute complication. Out of the shadows came a claimant who appeared in King's Landing with no warning for most of the lords present, none other than Aenys Blackfyre, the 5th son of Daemon I Blackfyre's 7 sons. Aenys was born sometime between the years 191 and 193 AC, making him no older than 42 years of age. It later came to light that when Bloodraven announced there was to be a great council to decide the succession, Aenys had written to him from exile in Tyrosh, putting forward his case in the hopes that his word might win him the Iron Throne that his forebears had thrice failed to win with their swords. Some have rightly pointed out this was a naive move on Aenys' part, especially given the animosity between the Hand, Bloodraven, and House Blackfyre, but given there were few claimants, and none with an outright firm claim, some historians have suggested now may have been the time for House Blackfyre to attempt a more peaceful claim to the throne. Nevertheless, Bloodraven responded to the letter by offering Aenys a safe conduct, promising no harm would come to him, so that Aenys might come to King's Landing and present his claim in person. Unwisely, Aenys Blackfyre accepted Bloodraven's olive branch. Yet hardly had he entered through the gates of King's Landing, had a contingent of gold cloaks and ravens' teeth seized hold of him and dragged him in fetters to the Red Keep, where his head was promptly struck off and presented to the Lords of the Great Council as a warning to any of those who might still have Blackfyre sympathies. While of course, most of the Lords present resented House Blackfyre, with many losing sons, brothers and fathers fighting the Black Dragon, there was a sense of unease at the underhandedness and dishonorable way in which Bloodraven went about the killing. With Aenys Blackfyre dead, Vaella and Maegor passed over, and Aemon refusing to accept the offer of kingship, there was only one clear choice left. Thereafter, Prince Aegon Targaryen, known to those close to him as Egg, was chosen by a majority of the Great Council. The 4th son of a 4th son, King Aegon V, would become widely known as Aegon the Unlikely, having stood so far out of the succession in his youth, only for the crown to fall to his feet.